I think Crystal Palace might be busy too in the January transfer window, especially if Oliver Glasner has his way. Last night they drew 2-2 with Coops in the Conference League. It was the final league phase game. They needed to win in order to get into the top 8, which would have seen them through to the knockout stages without the need for a playoff. They didn't manage that, and part of it was down to the fact that they changed the team so significantly because of the demanding schedule.
I don't know how well you sleep after a game, but if you want to have nightmares, a look at your February schedule. Could be 9 games in 28 days.
I love it.
Including Carabao Cup semi-final.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's easy to avoid these 2 games. It's just losing in 5 days, but that's not our mindset. So again, yes, we want this schedule, and hopefully playing the Carabao final, playing the FA Cup final, playing the Conference League final, and up the Premier League, having 65 games. I don't know how many. Yes, that's what we want.
But 9 games in 28 days with the injuries you've got, the size squad that you've got, that's a big ask, isn't it?
No.
That was Oliver Glasner last night talking about the schedule. They're currently in a run of 15 games in 49 days. He changed 11 players last night. Did he have any choice, Gabby Agbonlahor, bearing in mind they play Leeds on Saturday night, 48 hours later, and then on Tuesday night have a Carabao Cup quarter-final with Arsenal?
I think you've got to look at the league table. Crystal Palace are in 5th position, 2 points behind Chelsea. He's probably looking at the Leeds game and thinking, we've got a great chance here of keeping this run going in the Premier League, staying in touch with the top 5. So I don't blame him. I know Crook will probably say that making so many changes, you've now added 2 extra games in playoffs, but you have to use your squad. Yes, there are a lot of young players playing as well, but look at the injuries they've had this season. Sarah's missed a few games. Mateta, at times, has been playing injured as well. So I don't blame him for making the changes. They should have got the job done last night with the team that they played.
I can see that argument. I commentated the game with Darren Ambrose, former Palace player, on talkSPORT 2, and he was taken aback by the selection, even though we knew it was coming, because Oliver Glasner has been telling us for a couple of weeks now that he was going to make 11 changes for this game. Darren's argument, and I tend to agree with him, if you're going to have all the big hitters on the bench, they're still going through their warm-ups, they've still got to be at the ground and report for duty, and they still came on. He brought on Tyrick Mitchell, he brought on Mark Gay, he brought on Will Hughes quite early in the game. Obviously, Mateta has come on when they're looking for the winner at the end. Would he not have been better suited to do it the other way round, play the big hitters in the first half, get a decent lead, as they did in Shelbourne in the previous game, and then not have to worry about this 2-legged playoff?
I'm of the opinion that actually I thought he did a brilliant job last night. I thought they did a brilliant job last night. 11 changes, 3 debutants, 4 teenagers, and a performance which I thought was largely positive in basically every area. The only problem they had was right at the beginning of the second half, where they ended up conceding 2 quick goals. And that's a little bit down to naivety, a little bit down to the fact that for a lot of them, it was a rare opportunity to play in the first team. But there were some great finds last night, right? Dean Benamar, who played as the left back last night, was excellent, and he's given Oliver Glasner a different option. Maybe for the FA Cup games going forward, he could possibly use him, so he's expanded his squad. Caden Rodney played the 90 minutes in the middle of the park and was effective. He could be an option for them in an area where they have been like every now and again. Joel Drakes-Thomas, 16 years of age, the youngest ever Englishman to play in the Conference League, played 90 minutes of that match.
He was really good.
Excellent.
Really
he put in a couple of brilliant deliveries into the box. He didn't look fazed by playing first-team football. And Uche took his chance really well.
Great goal.
I must admit, I think that last night it was disappointing for them to not win the game. But ultimately, they found a couple of players there that I think can help them going forward. And Glasner needs the help.
I think as well, you've got to look at the frustration of the manager. You can't blame him. Elise went, Eze went. Yes, they signed Pino, great player, very good signing. But you look at their squad, and you look at the weekend against Manchester City, their bench, and you start to look at it, and you're like, okay, Nketiah,
players. He needs activity.
Will Hughes.
in
exactly. And if you're
in January,
and
no
if
doubt about that.
If you're a Palace fan, Sam, aren't you saying, yeah, I like the way our manager's going about things. Yeah, we won the FA Cup. Yes, we won the Community Shield. Yes, we're in the Conference League playoffs. Yes, we're in the top 5. But he wants more. Totally. Why can't Palace dream? I've seen Unai Emery's quotes last season. We want to dream of winning the Premier League. We want to dream of winning the Champions League. What's the point if, as a club, you can't dream? Why should Crystal Palace have limits of like, okay, yeah, it's been a good little era. Now, We're not going to spend any money. We're not going to improve the squad. We're happy with top 12 finish. As a fan, you want more.
It is the season for fairy tales, Gabs, but let's be realistic. They're fifth at the moment. They've only really got 14 senior players that Oliver Glasner trusts to play week in, week out. They're not going to finish in the top 5.
Well, this is the point.
Their best hope of silverware this season.
But why not if they invested in January?
Well, they're not going to
invest in January. If they don't invest in January, that's not on Glasner. That's on
Palace don't invest. Palace don't invest. That's why Glasner will probably leave at the end of the season.
I get that, Crookie, but if you're a Palace fan and you're Glasner, you're like, come on, we're ready to go again.
If you're a Palace fan this morning, I think you're waking up, you're thinking, crikey, how good was it to see some of those homegrown youngsters playing our first team and basically adapt to first team football? Wouldn't it be great if we could supplement them with a couple of senior players that can help this team get over the line in other competitions? You could win the Conference League. That's a possibility for Crystal Palace if they had more help. I know Crook makes the point, well, they lost to Larnaca and they didn't meet the beat.
They lost to Larnaca, they didn't beat Coops, and they got beaten away from Strasbourg, who obviously topped the table in the end.
Because ultimately they don't have the resources that other clubs who have been in this competition, West Ham and Chelsea, have had. So they need a little bit of help. If you give Glasner the help, I think he'll win it.
Listen, I totally agree. And I get what you're saying, Crookie. It won't happen. They won't finish top 5. But as a fan of that football club, if that was your team, wouldn't you be like, okay, look, we won the FA Cup, we won the Community Shield, we've lost Eze, we've lost Elise. Why can't we invest? Why can't we? We've got a top manager here. Why can't we?
I agree with you on that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I agree it's not going to happen, but isn't it frustrating?
Yeah, and that's why Glasner is frustrated. Well, of course it should, because they've got a massive opportunity.
Or is Parish being responsibly active with the finances to make sure that the club stays on an even keel and is not prepared to risk the future for a short-term burst?
Well, you probably have to find a happy medium, don't you? I mean, look at what Bill Foley has done down at Bournemouth. Obviously, languishing below Palace in the table at this moment in time, but they've sold players, as Palace have, but they keep finding new gems, and Palace at the moment aren't really following that model. In terms of the Conference League campaign, it was a bit flat last night, the atmosphere, and if I was a Palace supporter, I'd be a bit underwhelmed.
By what?
By losing at home to Larnaca. They only made 3 changes for that game, by getting beaten away at Strasbourg, and by what happened last night. This is a Coops team who never score an away goal in Europe.
They scored two last night with the first 2 shots. But they were playing against a younger team. There was a 17-year-old at left back and an 18-year-old at centre.
I wouldn't call a playoff place a successful campaign for Palace. They should be in the top 8.
But when you look at where they are in the Premier League, FA Cup,
if you're 5th in the Premier League, you should be in the top 8 in the Conference League.
So if you're Crystal Palace, you've won the FA Cup, the Community Shield.
I'm talking about their European campaign.
You're 5th in the.
Don't put words in my mouth.
In the Premier League.
I said I'd be underwhelmed by Europe.
Quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, but
you're not underwhelmed by Europe because their actual aim was to get through to the knockout stages, which they've done.
But they've got 2 extra games now that they could have avoided.
But he's happy to do that because he thinks he's going to get reinforcements in January to negotiate.
Well,
and also, maybe if they had rested more players in the Premier League, they wouldn't be where they are.
Exactly.
2 points behind Chelsea.
It's been a brilliant season. It's been a brilliant 2025, no question about that. But I think we all expected them to sweep all before them in the Conference League, and it hasn't happened.
Sarr would be a big miss, by the way.
You always say that any English team, unless they're playing Real Madrid or Barcelona, should be winning games in Europe.
Oh, who said that?
Yeah, it's true.
Your man.
Oh, and Bayern Munich.
We'll put them in the mix. So
they should be.
Larnaca and Coops
got more money than anybody else.
You can't be taking 1 point from those 2 games. You can't be taking 1 point from those 2 games.
First teams, not B teams.
It wasn't a B team against Larnaca. 3 changes he made.
But it was a B team last night.
Yeah.